Hello, Sanbonani, Dumelang, Demachironi, Huemora. Welcome to the Tnpa Procurement Masterclass, where today we'll engage on all things procurement and supply chain with our colleagues from the Port of Durban. Now, my name is Nkululeko Molife, and I'm going to be your host today. And I would like to extend a warm welcome to our viewers, whether through MS Teams, Vimeo, and through our Tnpa social media platforms. Now, we have an interesting lineup of speakers that are joining us today. And by no order of appearance, we've got Ms. Ayanda Somagaca, who's our corporate affairs manager, excuse me. Ms. Bongi Mati, who's our procurement manager, also from the Port of Durban. We've got Mr. Sipiwe Mthembu from the Marine Operations Manager. We also do have our port engineer, Ndate Malefetsane Setaka, and Mr. Vuyani Mbete, who is coming from Transnet Group, who is our senior manager through supply and enterprise development. We also do have our Esd Partners that have joined us in this conversation for today. We've got Ms. Shani Kelly, who's an education specialist at Cipc under the corporate education unit. We also do have Mr. Cedric Nguni from the KZN provincial, who's a KZN provincial manager of the Small Enterprise Development Agency. Now, ladies and gentlemen, maybe before we start with our conversations, I would just like to share a quote from one of the speeches recently, which was shared by our president in the investment conference. And he says, the coronavirus pandemic has severely damaged our economy, causing the greatest economic contraction in decades and driving the unemployment rate to its highest level. In the wake of this pandemic, our foremost task now is to rebuild our economy. This must be akin to how the protea germinates after fire. Our strategic approach must be to restore it to what it was before, but to make it even more vibrant, more resilient, and more inclusive. While this time of rebuilding our economy is fraught with risk, danger, hardship, and difficulty, it is also a time of great opportunity. And this is exactly why we're here today, ladies and gentlemen, to engage with you, to share the different
A very good morning to you, Program Director, fellow panelists, and most importantly, all of our viewers on the different social media platforms. So unlike the rest of my colleagues on the panel today, my job is fairly easy and quite straightforward in that I need to tell you why we are here today and really why the Port of Durban has taken the initiative to host such a masterclass, which is the first of its kind. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ayanda Somagaca, the Corporate Affairs Manager for the Port of Durban. So, in a joint hybrid seating of Parliament a month ago, President Cyril Ramaphosa presented the South African Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. So, the main aim for this particular plan is to expedite, but in a sustainable manner, the recovery of South Africa's economy that was, just like other economies within different worlds, deeply affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. President Cyril Ramaphosa mentioned that the recovery plan had 5 main focus points, which are creation of jobs, acceleration of economic reforms and growth, to fight crime and corruption, to improve the capability of the state, and lastly, to focus on small businesses and strengthen medium and large businesses, which is part of the reason why we are here today. So we are aware of the enormous contribution small businesses have to the South African economy, and also the potential these businesses have to accelerate growth, create jobs, and transform our economy. In South Africa alone, we are looking between 2.4 million and 3.5 million SMMEs, with which the largest number is in the informal and also the micro sectors. So this fact alone has probed the Port of Durban to align with the South African and also the provincial governments to realize the economic reconstruction and recovery goals and support our SMMEs, where in our case as Tnpa, or the Port of Durban, and as a national entity, local means everyone who's playing within the business sector in South Africa. Which then brings me to the second reason why we are hosting this masterclass today. One of the major challenges that we observe as the port in the procurement processes is the burning drive and the hunger most SMMEs have to do business with Tnpa or Transnet or the Port of Durban. With this said, however, during the procurement process, we have come to realize that while businesses tender for work within the port, there are some notable gaps within the procurement process that lead to non-awards. In simple terms, non-awards mean you being disqualified to do businesses within the port. So this can be in a form of paperwork, not being fully compliant to criteria, or also the requirements to a range of other omissions. So today, our panel members are here to highlight those gaps to you, especially in our core departments, which is the marine services and also the infrastructure departments. We are also here to empower you with knowledge on the procurement process, governance, and also support available for you as a business in general. So today, at the end of the webinar, towards the end of the webinar rather, you will view a quick snapshot video on port development projects on the horizon, which really present opportunities to those small businesses around South Africa and around our port that they can take advantage of. We hope to host more of these masterclasses in the future and work together with relevant organizations and stakeholders to continue supporting you and your businesses. So without wasting any further time, I would like to also welcome you to the Port of Durban's Procurement Masterclass, and I hope that you will learn a great deal from the information shared today. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I must apologize for that. If there's one thing that the COVID-19 has taught us, is that anything can happen. But with the support and the team that I have, we're able to carry on with the session. Thank you so much, Ayanda. I think without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, let me hand over to Ms. Bongi Matri, who's our procurement manager, who's going to just share the do's and don'ts of the tendering process and the common mistakes that are usually that they usually encounter when trying to assist our prospective bidders. Ms. Mang. Are you ready, ma'am? Can you take us through? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, and good morning to the viewers as well. Okay, my presentation is going to cover the regulatory environment for procurement or supply chain, the PPPFA, the tendering process, the common mistakes made by tenderers, registration in the Tnpa database, and where to find the adverts. The supply chain regulatory universe comprises of the regulatory framework, and what it seeks to achieve is to give effect to the constitutional vision, drive greater fiscal discipline, promote legality, objectivity in decision-making, and uniformity. In terms of the constitutional requirement, a specific condition in a tender disallowing any other category of the public to bid for such a contract is contrary to the principles of the Constitution. Therefore, it's viewed as being unconstitutional. The principles are fair, which means that everyone is given the same opportunity for tender, and equitable. The decisions must be to promote equity. It must be transparent. The process must be open and there's nothing to hide. It must be competitive, and promotion of open and fair competition and best value for money must be obtained. In terms of the PPPFA, which is the Preferential Procurement Policy Framework Act, it is aimed to give the HDIs, according to a preferential point system, an advantage above other bidders and redress historical imbalances. The preferential point systems work like this. There's an 80-20 and a 90-10. The 80-20 is applicable to price quotations and tenders that are above 30 and below 50 million, with all the applicable taxes included. And then the 90-10 is applicable to bids with a rand value above 50 million, including all applicable taxes. In terms of the application now of the pre-qualification criteria regulation 4, the tenders, it must be used to identify tenders to advance designated groups on basis of one or more of the following: the BE status level contributor, the exempted or QSE enterprises, and subcontracting. These are the list of the categories that can be considered for subcontracting. They all comprise of the designated group as listed. In terms of the procurement process, for transaction less than 250, the process starts with the demand planning, and then a purchase requisition is sent to procurement via the system subsystem, and then the buyer will select vendors through the CSD system as well as the Tnpa database. The quotations will be received and evaluated. Purchase order created, released, and then submitted to the buyer. It is then goods receipted, and inventory management follows after. The invoice is verified, and then payment will take place. In terms of the transactions above 250, it also stands with the demand planning. And then the procurement strategy is being drawn, and then the procurement mechanism is determined depending on the value of the transaction. The tender preparation, it's the preparation of all the bid documentation. And then step 4 is the issuing of receipts and opening of tenders. If there is a need for a briefing session, the tender will be issued to the market. There will be a briefing session whereby all service providers will have an opportunity to be briefed what is required of that particular tender. And then the next step will be the tender evaluation, followed by the adjudication. And then the negotiation will follow if it's applicable, and then the contract will be awarded, and then contracts management and continuous improvements and lesson learned as the final step. What are the common mistakes made by the tenderers? Tenderers often do not submit mandatory documents, for example, the BE certificate, the CIDP grading, which results in the tender being disqualified. There's a lack of understanding of the RFP document and the key requirements, which makes it important for tenderers to attend the briefing session because all these requirements are being discussed and explained. The lack of understanding on how to complete the tender documentation. It is also important that the tenderers attend the briefing sessions so that they can be briefed on how the tender document can be completed. The non-attendance of compulsory briefing session and then the updating of contact details by tenderers. Sometimes we find out that the briefing session, the company will send a representative. Sometimes they will just send a driver for the company who doesn't have a clue of what is going on. It's just there to sign the name that he attended the briefing session. And then at the end of the day, we encounter these problems of being unable to complete the document correctly. Where are the tenders advertised? The tenders are advertised at the National Treasury website, depending whether it's a construction, an engineering tender, it will be further advertised in the CIDP website. In terms of registration in the Tnpa database, suppliers must first register on CSD and obtain a MA reference number. Only get registered on Tnpa database once the contract had been awarded. So we only load tenderers on the database once they are awarded a contract. And then the documentation that is used for registration on the CSD database has to be submitted. And then the contractor will have to complete a supplier declaration form, and then will get registered with Tnpa and be given a vendor number, and then will be able to do business with Transnet National Ports Authority. I thank you.
Oh, thank you very, very much, very, very interesting facts that you have shared with us. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure some of you might have questions. Please, I urge you to type them up on the screens, on the comments section, and send them through so that I will read them, and then they are attended to by the panelists. And I will try by all means to cover each and every one of them. And if I may just check, I think one has just came through. Let me just try and read one. This one comes from, let me see. Okay, there's a question here that says, okay, so it says, where do we locate the RFQs that are relevant to our business? How do we go about in arranging service level agreements as extending service providers? Mebong, I'm not sure whether you want to cover that one or you will cover it later on.
Okay, yes, thank you, Nkululeko. Like I explained earlier on, that all our tenders are advertised on the e-tender portal. And then where it's RFQs that are below 250,000, what we normally do is we select from the database as well as the central supplier database. So it is important for suppliers to make sure that they are registered on CSD, because that's where we pull service provider to send the invitations to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. No, I must really appreciate the questions that are coming through because this is an engagement session. Just the last one, Bongi, before we move on to our next speaker. It says, when I was contract manager of the entrance widening and deepening project in 07, 08, we utilized NEC3 forms for contracts. Are you still using these forms of risk management?
Yes, Transnet is using NEC forms for all the construction-related projects. Thank you.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep them coming. Keep them coming. We really appreciate them. Without wasting any further time, I would like to call upon on stage Ubabu Mthembu, who is our Marine Operations Manager at the Port of Durban. And he's just going to share with us in terms of the technical requirements to the supplier to supply the marine field. Ubabu Mthembu.
Thank you, Program Director. Thank you, Program Director. My name is Mthembu. I'm a Marine Operations Manager in the Port of Durban. Maybe just to give colleagues a little bit about marine. In marine services, we operate the craft that we see, and our main goal is to assist vessels that are visiting the Port of Durban to make sure that they navigate safely within the port. Colleagues, taking over from Ubongi Manu, who's our procurement manager, I'm going to be talking about the technical requirement in the marine space. One key thing, colleagues, that we require when we put together our technical requirement is the referral letter, because it's important that we understand that we have been in the maritime and you know the requirement of the industry where we operate. As we all know, marine services is highly regulated, colleagues. And also having talked about the referral letter, also there's something called accreditation. Most of our work that we do, we require someone that is accredited by different authorities within the maritime industry. If I may mention a few, we have what we call International Maritime Organization, who passes conventions through SOLAS and MAPHOLS, but also we have SAMSA in the space of South African context, whom is a safety authority in maritime safety. But also we will all know there is our South African Bureau of Safety, who looks at all the issues relating to the quality. Some of you will understand there's something called ISO 9000 and ISO 14000. They cover the standard of quality that we receive. So it is important that you are accredited by most of those. But also, colleagues, we have our mandatory compliance or certificate that we want you to look at, which is then we'll ask you if you are accredited, have you have an accreditation certificate from these authorities. Going into the challenges, colleagues, when we do our procurement, we do encounter a number of challenges with the suppliers. The main one is that you'll find that we ask the procurement team to go out and procure services for us. And then when it comes back, it has a 100 to 300 mock-up. We understand the prices in the industry, but now when we get a price that is showing that it has an excessive mock-up, we tend to reject that, because we cannot just spend for the sake of spending. We need to get value out of the money that we pay. And another issue that we almost most of the time encounter is that of problem with guarantees and warranties. Most suppliers will find that they come in, but they cannot commit on guarantees and warranties, which is something that we really want to see. Also, colleagues, most issues come when the suppliers are giving us substandard material that does not stand the test of time. And we will know that our operation is really hard in that it's a safe collusion with other vessels, in that we lean on vessels when we're pulling them. So the quality of those materials that we use, including the oils that go to our machines, needs to be really of high quality. We have had a difficulty with the lead time. We find that we are requesting a service, but the lead time that is offered to us is not acceptable. And then we tend then to have a problem in that regard. Going, colleagues, into areas of categories where we normally do our purchasing or procurement, we deal a lot with PPE. As you will know that in maritime is a really high risk environment. So our PPEs need to be worn by our employees. So we purchase a lot of our PPEs. But also, having spoken about our PPEs, as I said, we are highly regulated. Our employees, for them to operate in our crafts, they need to be trained, highly trained, specialized training. In that, we need an accredited service providers that will supply us with training. And those service providers will have accreditation from SAMSA, especially in terms of training. You will have what is called International Convention on Training, Certification, and Watchkeeping for the seafarers. Those are the trainings that you need to probably go deep into it to understand what type of training you can provide to us as marine services and seafarers that we operate the vessels with. But also, year on year, we do what is called the surveying. We survey our vessels through our regulators. There are issues that we encounter before we go to surveys. For example, probably we might have to dock the vessel. We might have to purchase the equipment, which is safety equipment on board our ships. Those equipment, colleagues, that we purchase, we need to buy them from someone who's also accredited by SOLAS. As I indicated earlier on, that you need to really be in compliance with SOLAS in this space. Having said that, colleagues, we also have different types of engines that are running into our crafts. And you will understand those engines that need some spares. And those spares, we procure them in the market. But I must alert colleagues that when we procure these spares, they need to be accredited or approved by OEM, which is the original equipment manufacturers. They give a accreditation or approval to supply these parts for us, because we cannot just take any part that is made on the backyard and put them into our expensive engines. One will know that each tug that we operate with in the Port of Durban or in any other ports, they cost in excess of about 200 million. So we do really need spares that are meeting the quality that is required by the OEM. Colleagues, let me stop there, colleagues. I will take questions later if there is any question. Thank you, Program Director.
No, thank you so much, Babu Mthembu, for that valuable information. I think what I take really from you is that when people do get these opportunities, they make sure that they get the right equipment, the right items that are needed, that are approved. They must be certified as well. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Depending on what you are using to access this engagement, there is though a WhatsApp line that you can use if you have questions for our presenters, and the number is 060-349-8195. I will repeat, 060-349-8195. We will really appreciate engaging with you and attending to your questions. Now, because one of the reasons this session has been planned is that through a numerous dialogue around SMME development that have taken place, one of the things that have been realized is the need for an informative initiatives, which is why we're here today, just to give you all the information that you will need. Let's proceed to our next speaker. We've got our port engineer, Ntate Fetsane Setaka, who's going to just talk to us in terms of the technical requirements to the supply and engineering field. Now that we've moved from the marine, we're moving towards the engineering field. Baba Setaka,
thank you. Thank you very much, Temba. I mean, can you just confirm if I'm audible there, Kule?
Yes, most definitely, sir. We can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you very much for that, and a very good morning to our viewers from across various platforms. My name is Malfesana Setaka, the port engineer in the Port of Durban. I'm going to take you through quickly on the technical requirements for the engineering and construction works, because this sector really, it claims the lion's share of the procurement invested in the Port of Durban. I'll go through just an overview of what type of works do we do, and then item 2, 3, and 4, I'm just trying to divide this into various type of works: construction works, professional services contracts, and what I will call term service contracts. I borrowed this from the NEC type of contracts because this type of works that we do in this category don't necessarily mean that they are construction or neither nor professional services. This slide just in front of you shows some of the works that we do in the port. The dividing line is the red dotted line that you see there. At the top is mainly what we call the capital projects. At the bottom is mainly the maintenance type of projects. Right from the top left, that is the fabrication of the dry dock inner casing, the project that we just successfully commissioned yesterday. In the middle, there's the reconstruction of the maiden of beds, the project that we completed about 3 to 4 years back. The top right, that's the Durban Harbour entrance widening. That's the construction of the new breakwater that was done about 12 years ago. So those are the capital projects, the type of projects that we do. At the bottom here, you will see on the bottom left, that is the repainting of the ocean terminal building. That is the project that is happening currently. And in the middle there, that is the maintenance and cleaning of culverts. This is one of those contracts that I said is not really a construction nor professional services, but it is just a service that we provide. On your bottom right, that is the maintenance of the best potable water pipes. This is just an overview of the tendering processes, and the red rectangle there just shows this space that we play in as the technical function within the procurement process, which is the functionality or the technical requirements, and I'll unpack that in more detail in the next slide. Most of the engineering-related bids are evaluated on functionality, and the evaluation criteria for measuring functionality must be very objective. When evaluating bids on functionality, the following must be clearly specified in the invitation to submit a bid: the evaluation criteria for measuring functionality, the points for each criteria. If any sub-criteria, then those must be specified as well as the minimum qualifying score or threshold for functionality. The minimum qualifying score for functionality may not be so low that it may jeopardize the quality of the required engineering and construction works, may not be so high that it is unreasonable and restrictive. No bid must be regarded as acceptable bid if it fails to meet the minimum qualifying score for functionality, as it may be indicated in the bid. Each tenderer that obtained the minimum qualifying score for functionality must be evaluated further in terms of price and the preference point system. All bids that attain or exceed the minimum qualifying score for functionality are regarded as equally technically compliant. Whether you get 95 points and someone else gets about 75 or 65 points, all the same, you're all the same. So as I have said, I've tried to categorize this into various clusters: construction, term service, and professional services. And for the construction contracts, I've further subdivided this into 2 categories, which is the contracts that are under 2 million. Most of these are very small type of contracts, predominantly maintenance type of works, and they are also under 2 million. And the governance processes, approval processes differ for projects that are under 2 million to those that are over 2 million. So here I've listed some of the typical requirements that you may actually find on the tender document. This is not, the list is not actually exhaustive, but it just shows typically what you actually need. For such type of works, you may need the key personnel that you may need. Depending on the type of work, it can be an artisan in the form of regular or carpenter with the specific number of years experience and the trade certificate, foreman, specific number of years experience, and health and safety officers. And then below that, you may also be required to have the health and safety requirements, the methodology or the approach paper, which is specific to a project, the previous experience on projects of similar nature, and of course, the program that is aligned to the approach paper. Here, this now specifies projects that are larger in nature, actually larger than 2 million, where you may need the CIDB grading of more than 3 up to 9. And these are very, very, mostly, this is really the CAPEX projects most of the time. The requirements are fairly the same, but in this kind of large projects, and depending on the complexity and size, you may also need the construction manager, you may also need the contracts manager in addition to those that are specified earlier. Other requirements are exactly the same. Term service contracts, these are the contracts that I spoke about earlier to say, these are some of the services. For example, the cleaning of canals, the jetting of the stormwater pipes. In most of this, you may not need a CIDB grading because it is substantially a service rather than a service plus material. So the requirements are also the same as the other contracts that I mentioned before in terms of health and safety requirements and methodology, the previous experience, and so on and so forth. The last category is the professional services contracts, where there's really no tangible output that you leave on site. The main deliverables here will be investigation reports, design reports, and so forth and so forth. So mostly here, these are kind of the design kind of professional services, project management services, mainly as advisory services. And most of the work that is done here is the precursor to the execution type of services. But other than that, the requirements are still the same: methodology, approach paper, previous experience, program, and so on and so forth. I just want to maybe highlight lastly here on the key challenges that we encounter. And I think Bongi has actually talked more on this to say there's a whole lot of non-hours of business, maybe due to bidders not meeting the required specified technical requirements. It happens a lot. The other reason may be the client bodies like ourselves and probably maybe even municipalities and others preparing substandard bid documents which lead to non-hours. These are the facts that we need to really put on the table and say, how do we solve these problems? The second challenge is the changes in rules and legislations. You may find that the communication doesn't get disseminated timely, so much that this leads to non-hours in most cases, and we have experienced this quite a lot this year in the Port of Durban. Underpricing by bidders due to high competition in the industry. There's a lot of competition in the industry, ladies and gentlemen, as we all understand, but some service providers do underprice, and it leads to serious problems because you may find that other service providers do not deliver or they under-deliver. That is the problem. So the proposed mitigation is the bidders need to price correctly, however, still remaining competitive. The last challenge is a very emotive one, but I think we need to stimulate conversations on this matter. Inadequate understanding of the localization principle. And I think this needs a dedicated presentation to deal with these matters here. And of course, broader communications and engagements with the stakeholders at all levels is required to deal with this challenge. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much, Ndate Setaka. And what I'm observing right now is a number of questions that are coming through. Really does show the appreciation, from our audience. And maybe let's just take one, and I will try to get them as much as possible. We do have a questions and answer sessions that will be coming up, but I think from time to time we'll add a few there and there. Now, this one comes from Untantla. It says, since marine is a specialized field, how does one get experience in the field if excluded from basis of lack of experience in tenders? I do not know whether Sis Bongi, you'd like to take that one, or any of the colleagues from Tnpa or those that have presented. I'll repeat it. Since marine is a specialized field, how does one get experience in a field if excluded from basis of lack of experience in tenders? Tnpa?
Thank you, Chair. Maybe let me answer the question in a more broader approach by saying, I think the first thing that one needs to probably start doing is to get the knowledge of the maritime itself by either going into the summits or getting some knowledge and the background around maritime as a sector itself. Secondly, it's important that because we are regulated, and the regulators will be people like SAMSA and SOLAS. So just to dive into the regulation itself on what is required for any service provider to supply in this field. And then also probably get in touch with the actual accreditation itself. How do you get accredited so that you can have this accreditation? Because once you have an accreditation, it's one leg in. Then you start getting into smaller jobs within the marine, because there will be jobs that we are putting out that are not too stringent when it comes to the requirement. For example, if I may make an example, you can't just come, you are a new entry into the industry and you want to build tanks when you have not had the requirement of the registry or of the vessel itself. So you start slow or smaller items, then you get the experience. And then that's where the experience comes from, is those smaller jobs that you get within the marine space and understanding the nitty-gritties of the industry itself, getting to the accreditation, one step at a time until you become a big player. But I know also there will be other businesses within the marine space where you can probably look at just partnering for experience purposes, partner with those players that are already in the industry, so that you can get someone to hold you by your hand and then take you through the industry itself. I think those key steps, Chair, will take one day.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tnpa. And there's another question of which I think our next speaker will be able to assist us in that. And it comes from Malcolm. Thank you so much, Malcolm. And it says, how big an emphasis does Tnpa place on actually developing suppliers? Ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to proceed to our next speaker, of which I believe that you'll be able to cover that question. Ubaba Uvuyani Mbete, who comes from Transnet Group, who's a senior manager at Esd. Now, he's just going to take us through in terms of the background and objectives of the Transnet SED hubs that we have. I mean, if you look at the previous question that came through, one needs experience, and these are the platforms where one should start. Thank you. I'm not sure whether you are ready, Mbete.
Thank you, Mr. Mulefe. Good morning to all the participants. So this morning, I'm going to present the enterprise and supply development initiatives at Transnet. The first one would be the Kgodisa Supply Development Fund. Kgodisa is a partnership between Transnet and CIFA aimed at funding Black-owned SMMEs who are Transnet suppliers. The fund size is 110 million with a contribution of 55 million rand each from Transnet and CIFA. The mandate is to promote sustainable enterprise development, business growth, and job creation amongst Black-owned Transnet suppliers in rail manufacturing, freight logistics, and related services, with a specific focus in developing women, the youth, and people with disabilities. The funding criteria.
Sorry to disturb you, Sam. If you can just put your presentation on slide mode so that our viewers can see it clearly. Sorry for that. Thank you.
Okay. So the funding criteria, you have to have a contract with Transnet. You have to sign a session agreement with Transnet and Kgodisa. You are within the required contractual capacity, operate within South Africa, have a written proposal or business plan that meets the requirements of Kgodisa loan application criteria, demonstrate the character and ability to repay the loan, have provided personal and or credit references if available, have the majority shareholder as the manager of the business. What makes Kgodisa difference? We have a high tolerance to risk in exchange for a high developmental impact, provision of capital and or interest moratorium for up to 12 months, financing SMMEs and cooperatives, including startup businesses that have often been perceived as high risk, provision of pre- and post-loan business support, provision of funding for entrepreneurs, and with adverse credit records, provided they can demonstrate active remedy of their indebtedness. Lending is not solely based on security backing. So if the contact details, as shared as a screen, is Ms. Bella Maja, bella.maja2@transnet.net, telephone number 011-3084-119. The second program is a Transnet Gazelles Transnet Gazelle is an enterprise development partnership between Transnet and TIA Dynamics. The qualifying criteria: you have to be a Black-owned SMME that is currently not in business with Transnet, an EME with a turnover of not less than 1 million. You have to be in business for at least 2 years, and priority will be given to the following sectors that are core to Transnet's business: manufacturing, rail engineering, rail, ports and industrial infrastructure, blue ocean economy, oil and gas, and agro-processing. Key program interventions: business builder, skills development by bridging the skills gap and moving from being self-employed to a business owner. Value builder, business fundamentals by building measurable asset value, accurate current and future status assessment, risk profile improvement, and profitability and overall sustainability improvement. Growth accelerator, enterprise maturity to capability maturity improvement, quality and delivery and resource maturity development, and integration and failure and complexity minimization. So there will be an intake in 2001, which is expected to take place in January 2021. The program runs for 12 months, and it will be advertised on the Transnet website. Enterprise Development Hubs. Through its Department of Enterprise and Supplier Development, has created hubs in Impangeni, Saldanha Bay, DR, and Mdantsane. The fundamental objectives of the Transnet Hub is to provide a platform for SMMEs to be mentored and supported, thereby addressing the low levels of sustainable entrepreneurship among small businesses in South Africa. Capacitate SMMEs that create and unlock commercial value for Transnet. The primary beneficiaries of the hubs are Black-owned SMMEs. Preference will be SMMEs that are Black-owned, Black unemployed youth, and former Transnet GITs, apprentices, and learners who could not have been absorbed after training. These beneficiaries will be assisted by starting up and growing their businesses primarily in the construction, engineering, manufacturing, and ITC sector. The above will be accomplished through business incubation, which will include provision of subsidized shared office facilities, training and mentoring programs to beneficiaries and other SMMEs, facilitating access to the markets, provision of CIPC and SARS assistance for SMMEs. The Transnet Impangeni Mega Hub. It was established in September 2017 with a total cost of 9.7 million. The project commenced in 27th October 2017 and was completed in 2018. The hub was launched on the 15th of March 2019 in the presence of the Minister of Public Enterprises, Mr. Pravin Gordhan, and His Majesty, King Zwelithini Goodwill Kapikizu. The hub has a construction sector incubation program run by the National Construction Incubator. The hub also provides space to CEDA, King Cetshwayo, and NYDA, who provide services to working SMME clients. The standard hub partners include CIPC for registration of companies and cooperatives and annual returns, SARS, tax-related and advisory services, CIFA, financial support and startup loans, term loans and bridging loans, NYDA for business grant administration, and job opportunities for youth. I thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ufuyani. This is very interesting. And you know, one of the conversations that one has had previously was the fact that most service providers just want opportunities without really getting proper training, of which is one of the things that Tnpa was talking about, or one of the challenges. So let us utilize these hubs. Let us get proper training through incubations so that when opportunities do come, we are ready to access them. What are the audience saying? Okay, I will just go through one question and then I will move on to our next speaker, who says, this is very interesting. So they say, may I ask, in case where one has an exclusive service or product which is unique to their business, meaning no any other company provides the same service or product, and one has never done business with any of the Transnet business units, assuming that they are already registered in the CSD, how does one make the service or product known to Transnet? And what would then be a process to register that individual company into Transnet database for Transnet to be able to procure that service product directly from that individual company? I'm not sure who I can give that question to. Ms. Bong, have you ever faced with such a situation where there's a company or a service that is unique, never been seen before? It's just this one company that provides this. So what process do they follow?
Okay, thanks, Kule. Transnet doesn't accept unsolicited bids at the moment. So what normally happens, if there is a need within Transnet, we will go out on open tender and invite all the prospective service providers. So he doesn't need to do anything at the moment. Where a need arises, we will advertise in the e-tender portal. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. So we're dealing with fairness and transparency. Thank you very much. Again, one of the questions that have came through is that if we're going to be able to share the slides or the presentations that we've been sharing, I think most definitely you will be getting those presentations. Thank you very much. Without wasting any further time, ladies and gentlemen, as indicated, we do have our partners in the industry who are here that have joined us as well. And for now, I would like to call upon on stage Ms. Shani Kelly, who's an education specialist at Cipc under the Corporate Education Unit. Now she's going to, share with us in terms of applicable compliance and framework for SMEs, available support, and for SMEs development and compliance in the Durban region. Madam, we're yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Molefe. Okay, I'm going to talk to you. My name is Shani Kelly. I'm from Cipc, and I'm going to talk to you, give you all a brief summary on Cipc's compliance framework and support to SMMEs. Okay, Cipc was brought into existence from the Companies Act 2008 in terms of Section 1.8.1 of the Companies Act. The Commission was established as a juristic person to function as an organ of the state within the public administration, but as an institute outside the public service. Now remember, Cipc was previously called CIPRO, and we combined or merged with the Enforcement Jurisdiction Unit, and we became Cipc, Companies and Intellectual Properties Commission. Now Cipc has been divided into two sections: the business, corporate regulations, IP, innovative intellectual property, that is innovations and creativities. The corporate regulations unit is the companies, cooperatives, and CCs. The innovative and creativity section of Cipc is the patents, designs, trademarks, and copyright. I'm going to concentrate today mainly on the corporate regulations. Compliance and access channels of Cipc. Now remember, when you register your company or when you have an existing company, a director is one of the most important functions, and he needs to ensure that all the compliance is done. He cannot delegate this task. He needs to ensure that it's done. Even if he does delegate, he needs to see that it's been done correctly. Now, a director must safeguard the company with the proper maintenance from a compliance perspective. The company needs to keep accurate and complete accounting records, files its annual returns with the prescribed fee. Now remember, your annual returns is not SARS. Your annual returns is a prescribed fee which you need to submit to CIPC annually. On the month of your anniversary, which is your registration month, you need to submit your annual returns. Your annual returns is dependent on your turnover, but most MMEs pay 100 Rand. If you do not submit it on your anniversary month, you will be penalized for it, which will be 150 Rand. Please, in order to keep your business active and as prescribed by the Act, it's so important that your annual returns are completed. When you file your annual returns, you will come across, through the process, you'll come across a process called XBRL. Now it's either you do your financial accounting supplement or annual financial statements. Your annual financial statements is if your company has an accountant or needs to submit a high turnover, so that they have to submit their financial statements. But most SMMEs does the accounting, the financial accountability supplement. It's a few questions which you need to complete in order to continue with the annual return process. Remember, also note that your annual return payments can be done through cash deposit, through a bank deposit, even through card facilities. So even at the comfort of your own home, you can do your annual returns, just to ensure that your company is compliant and also that your company is still staying in business. We do not want you to get a tender and then be told that your company has been deregistered due to annual returns. You need to inform CIPC if there's any director change, MOI changes, company addresses, anything that is within the prescribed period of the year. Now, I'm going to tell you all about our access channels. Our partners are Transnet, the Transnet Hub, of course, our self-service terminals in which you can go and register your companies or pay your annual returns at the Durban Chamber of Commerce and Industry at the Chamber Square, and the Trade Investment at Kingsmead Office Park in Boulevard. You can go to any of these hubs and do your annual returns. If you prefer doing it at the comfort of your home or your office, you can use the e-services on the CIPC website. You can do a cell phone queries to check how far your process is and how much annual returns you need to pay on the USSD. That's the *134*2472#. You can download the mobile app, the CIPC mobile app from your Play Store, or you can use the three major banks. Now, Standard Bank and FNB does a full registration, whereas ABSA does a registration, online registration through our e-services. Our social media platforms are Facebook and Twitter, and you can also go to BizPortal. Remember, BizPortal, you can only use a South African ID. It does not accept passport numbers. BizPortal is also a paperless environment in which you can do your SARS and your UIF. It's a comprehensive government site where you can do all your government applications. Our CIPC website is our CIPC call center is 086 100 2472. Now, I just need to stress, if you have a query or you need to find out anything from CIPC, go to our website on our query resolution icon. You can see it in front of you. Here you select the category in which your query resides in. Once you check the once you click the category, it will give you a ticket number. This is very effective and very efficient, as it sends your query to the allocated division. I also need to stress to you is to register a company, which I actually should have done in the beginning, is to register a company. It costs you 175 Rand. It's 50 Rand for the name reservation and 125 to register the company itself. The CIPC website and the BIS portal has videos, YouTube videos, which will help you with the registration process. The CIPC website has a step-by-step guides with pictures and icons to help you with the process. Please do your registration yourself, your company registration yourself. It's 175 Rand. Your BE certificate is free. When you do your annual returns, you can apply for your BE certificates. The time limit for a company registration is between 1 and 3 days. Follow the process correctly, and you will get your certificate and your company registered within 3 days. CIPC processes are very efficient. If there's a query, you can log it onto the website, even on our Facebook and social media platforms. Okay, that's very briefly a summary on CIPC's compliance. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you very, very much, Ms. Kelly. You know, interestingly, I know that back in the days, you know, people used to think opening up a company is such a difficult or complex thing to do. And we've seen quite a number of companies, you know, offering those services and, you know, charging big amounts of money, you know. So it's very clear. It's very nice to hear that it's that easy and it's that cheap. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, there is quite a number of interesting questions that are coming through, but because of time, what we'll do is that I'm going to let my last speaker present, and then we'll deal with the questions. Thank you so much. I would like to call upon Mr. Cedric Babumnguni, who's the KZN Regional Manager, just to, you know, take us through in terms of the ESD trends and plans post COVID-19. Babumnguni.
Thank you, Mr. Mpele. Thank you, Mr. Mpele. Good morning to the panelists and fellow participants. My name is Cedric Mnguni. I'm from Small Enterprise Development Agency. This agency is under the Department of Small Business Development. Our sister organization is Small Enterprise Finance Agency that provides development finance whilst we're busy providing non-financial support business support services. We've got a national footprint of about 53 branches, and we support incubators, about 72 of them, and we co-locate with local municipalities in 48 sites. We have decided to follow the district development model that was piloted here by the president, Mr. Ramaphosa. Our focus is on aspiring entrepreneurs, those entrepreneurs with business ideas, as well as informal traders, informal businesses, small enterprises, as well as cooperatives. So we provide quality business development support in partnership with other role players in the ecosystem. The way we provide these services is in two streams. The first stream is the Cedar Construction, is the Cedar Enterprise Technology Program, where we support various incubators in various sectors, where the enterprises are actually incubated for 36 months to receive enterprise development services. The likes of the incubators that we support is National Construction Incubator. We also support Invotech, DUT, as well as other incubators that are in various sectors. The other stream is our branch network, where an entrepreneur can come into our offices and then receive various interventions from mentorship, from business compilation of the reports and compliance issues. I'll just take you through quickly our main programs that we have. The first one is SEDA Enterprise Coaching Program, which is an 8-month program. We invite various enterprises to this program for 8 months, and then we get a coach that are going to take them through various developmental issues within their businesses. The other one is the Township and Rural Entrepreneurship Program, where we are supporting informal traders with grant funding from the Department of Small Business Development. The other one is the Supplier Development Program, like the one that we're going to be engaging with Transnet, where we develop suppliers, looking at the gaps, and then actually provide interventions that are going to assist them to be compliant. The other program is the sector mentorship and coaching programs that is specific to various sectors, where we provide the business support programs, and as well as the export development program. How we provide these support services at the branches. A client will visit the branch and then will be allocated a practitioner who will consult with. The practitioner will then register them on the client register as one of our clients. We sign the confidentiality agreement to make sure that all what you are giving us as your IP is going to be protected. And then we'll conduct an assessment, be it a business idea or an existing business. We diagnosed your challenges, and then we list the possible interventions that we're going to agree with so that we implement them. When we implement, we invite experts in various fields. Like, for example, if your business requires an interactive website, we'll invite a service provider to code for us, and then we will pay that service provider for those kind of interventions, be it marketing, business cards, or be it company profiles, all kind of interventions that will enhance your competitiveness as a small enterprise. Once we've done those interventions, we sign them off, and then we facilitate the payments, and then the whole process is complete. The kind of products and support that we render. For example, we provide the tender advice, training, the procurement, like pricing and costing training. We also facilitate franchises for those who wants to be on the franchise. We also facilitate access to finance, like we have a sister organization, which is SEFA. We also provide growth strategies for various businesses in terms of ensuring that their competitiveness is enhanced. You'll remember that the entrepreneurial flair is dependent on 2 pillars. One is the entrepreneurial capacity, where we refer to the resources that the business might have, and as well as the skills and intellectual property that the company needs to have. So we provide those trainings to make sure that we enhance this entrepreneurial capacity. The other leg is the entrepreneurial opportunity, which refers to markets that prevail both locally and international. So we also provide those platforms. For example, we can take a small enterprise to exhibit in various fairs. We pay for those stands. We actually facilitate that access to markets for various businesses. Our contact details, we are here. Our provincial office is at Esd Park, Block B, at X46 Essex Cherries in Westville. You can contact us. Then we'll link you with various branches that are close to where you are as an enterprise to receive our services. I thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Babu Mnguni. Sibonga kakhulu, Baba. Thank you very, very much. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I think after listening to our speakers and gaining much needed knowledge in our sector, there's quite a number of questions that have been coming through, but because of time, we might not be able to cover all of them. However, please don't be discouraged. Let the conversation carry on. You can still send the questions on WhatsApp, and through all the other platforms, we will be engaging with you again. And certainly, this is not the end of this is not the last session. Chances are there will be more of these, so the conversation will carry on. So, with the last few minutes that we have, I will go through a few questions that have been sent, and our panelists will attend to them. But if there's one very important one, in fact, all of them are important, but I would like to start with this one. Now, there's a question that has came through to say, and I'll direct this to Sibongi. Do we have set asides at the Port of Durban? Do we have tenders that are set for a particular group to say this one, or this one, or whatever the case may be at the Port of Durban? And I assume that because we are under government, whatever, it will be within the government policies.
Thank you, Mr. Mlifa. The set aside is excluding certain potential bidders from participating in the bidding process. Like I mentioned in my presentation, there is nothing that the PPPFA has that permits any organ of state to exclude a person from participating. By setting aside, this would mean that the HDIs now will have to compete against each other with no need to award points as per the PPPFA, which is the 80-20 and the 90-20.
Okay.
So set-asides are not permissible as per the PPPFA, okay?
Yes, set-asides are not permissible. Babuyan, Matt, do you want to add on that?
I'd like to add that we do have pre-qualification criteria in the PPPFA regulation of 2017, where we can set criteria that only maybe EMEs or QSEs can bid for certain tenders, and we have the option to set a minimum PE level.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No, thank you for that. There's a question that came from, is it Ruren Seraphim, who says that in terms of the technical requirements, how can new companies with experienced personnel, but the company lacks a viable track record, get considered? So the company is new, doesn't have experience, but the people that are working or that are managing the company, they do have experience. How do they get considered? Mambongi, I don't know whether you would like to take that one.
Okay, thank you, Kole. When we do the technical evaluation, we look at the company experience, and we also look at the CVs of the key personnel in the company. The company might be new, but they might have a personnel that have got experience. So they will, however, still score on that particular criteria where they have to submit the CVs of the key personnel. Remember, this is not a qualifying criteria. It is just a criteria for technical or functionality. So when we look at the functionality criteria, we will look at the key people, key personnel in the organization, as well as the experience of the organization as well.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, there's quite a number of questions that have came through. It would be really, really nice to attend to all of them, but due to time, we cannot, but they will be responded to. The presentations will be available in our Tnpa platforms. So please feel free, even the recording of this session, it will be available. And yeah, so please, you are also welcome to share it as well with any other person. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of a productive session. And thank you so much to our speakers, industry experts, and to you, our valued stakeholders, for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend this session. Now, I must say that I was once told by a man, a certain constructor, that in order to build a house, you must make sure that the foundation is proper. Because if you get the foundation wrong, then the whole structure then becomes a problem. And this is why we're here today, to make sure that the foundation is proper, so that when you build your house, your company, it's proper and it's heading to the right direction. Thank you so much for attending today. I am your host, Nkululeko Molife, and would like to wish you well and enjoy the rest of your week. And please keep it safe. Make sure that we are safe under the COVID condition that we are living, or we are finding ourselves under. Let's wear our mask. Let's sanitize. Thank you very much, colleagues. Goodbye.